Hi, I'm Steve Hayes, and welcome to This Is My Story. I love stories, and what I find most compelling about them is when I can talk to other people about what's going on in their lives. And when you hear everything that has come together to make them who they are, it's really powerful. So please listen along with This Is My Story. All right, y'all, we are here with a good friend and guy who's been coming to our church for a while now, Ben Brunton. Ben, golly, how do I describe you, Ben? Ben's you're like a real cowboy, man. That's pretty much what you do. You're a cattleman. And I remember the first time that that I really got to see what you do. I mean, we had met a couple of times, but you invited us out to Angus, I guess, to y'all's business that y'all run out there, and y'all basically run the cattle auction out there, you and your family. So I showed up out there, and I didn't know what to expect. And I had, first of all, about the best chicken fried steak I've had in a long time. And the food was fantastic. But then I walked into the auction, and man, it was like nothing I've ever seen before. I guess I'm kind of a city boy, I guess. But I walk in there, and it's just what you would think of when you think of an auction. Guy up there like, give me $1. Hey. I don't know how they do that. Yeah. I had no idea what he was saying the whole time. I guess that's your brother, right?
No, it's a good friend of mine.
Okay, that's
my
good.
brother used to auctioneer, but
okay,
he just buys now.
Yeah. So that guy gets going, and I guess there's a whole art form to that, to kind of know how to do that. I just remember being like, don't raise your hand or scratch your face or nothing, because you don't want to walk out of here with a cow.
Yeah, that's kind of a Selborne joke.
Yeah,
the auctioneer pretty much knows who buys each week and knows when somebody's scratching and when somebody's actually bidding. So
what are you doing? The whole time we were watching you were just writing stuff down in a book. So what are you doing up there?
When they come in, I write down their tag number. So that's how we identify who sold that animal and then who bought it. So when the sale's over, we go back and check those numbers, make sure they get to the right people. I write that down, and then I write down who buys it and how much it goes for, and then I send it behind me, and they stamp the weight on there.
And that's just one part of your job. Mm-hmm. You do that on, what, Tuesdays?
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the time, you're in charge of cattle, you're finding cattle. Are you finding cattle for the auction?
Usually you going around the countryside and you see somebody that's got some cattle, and just, sometimes you stop just to talk and kind of just see where they're selling their cattle, see if you can help them out, and see if you help them market their cattle and if they're happy where they're going. And a lot of times people will call us new to the area, kind of seeing what we're all about, and so just kind of trying to build it up as much as we can.
So there's a lot of recruiting that goes on from you.
Yeah, we like to say a Selborne's worse than a beauty parlor. Because the littlest thing can make somebody mad and they won't come back, and you don't even know what you did. So you got to kind of go back and hunt and see what you did to upset them, and you kind of got to, I know we're in church, you kind of got to kiss their butt a little bit to get them to come back and try to do the best you can to make everybody happy.
I'm just glad you said butt. Well, it sounds like church.
Yeah.
Sometimes the littlest thing can run people off of church too.
And it's hard too to run your business when you make somebody mad and you don't know about it.
Right.
If you know about it, you can try to work with them and fix it. But that's the hardest thing to do, is fix something when you don't know.
Isn't that funny? I mean, it's a kind of line of work that not just everybody's familiar with, but it has some of the same problems as just about every line of work. Yep. I mean, I've got a friend who who works in the insurance industry, and he says the same types of things. We can do the smallest thing, and it rubs somebody the wrong way, and they're gone, and we didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's true of so many different areas, but you wouldn't think of it in the business that you do, but I bet it is. People are particular about their cows, huh?
Yeah, and Oklahoma and Kansas up that way, it's not so much competition because the barns are so spread out.
Okay.
Here, around here from our cell barn, I think there's 6 cell barns within 30 miles of any direction. So you're constantly trying to make sure that you're the one they go to, and it's just hard when there's so many surrounding you. So makes it easier for them if they get upset. Well, I just go over here. It's just as close. So
right.
It's a constant battle you got to stay on top of.
Well, it's something that if y'all are listening and you're in the area and you have any interest in cows, you ought to get out there to the cell barn in Angus. It's pretty neat thing to experience. So one of the other ways that we have kind of gotten to know each other is not in a way that really either one of us would have chosen. Certainly not you, but not too long after y'all started coming to church here, y'all really, due to your wife kind of having a sixth sense about what's going on with the kids, she started noticing some problems with your youngest one, with Brody, and he just started having some issues, and y'all had gone to several doctors and a couple of different places trying to get it figured out what was going on with him. And they'd tell you little things here and there, but nothing that seemed to explain the kinds of issues that he was having. And Kirsten just kept at it. She just kept going, and finally kind of got to the bottom of what was going on.
Yep.
And when they did figure out what was going on, they found out that it was cancer. So how old was Brody at the time?
He was 3.
And Kristen just kept, she was like I don't know, I guess it's not the best thing to say about a woman, but she was like a pit bull with this whole deal. She was not going to let it go.
Yeah, we call her Mama Bear.
Mama Bear.
She's a Mama Bear.
And she was just not going to let it go until she got to the bottom of what was going on.
Yep. Yeah, it was Easter of 2018.
Yeah.
We noticed he had been limping a little bit and hunting Easter eggs. He couldn't even really bend down to pick them up.
Yeah.
And, of course, all your family's around during that time, and so we got plenty of feedback of what was wrong with him. So we heard a lot of people agreed on growing pains and thought he might have needed adjustment from a chiropractor, so he got that done, and that was a nightmare, which later we found out that the cancer he had, it causes his spine to swell a little bit, and so he had little tiny fractures all up and down his spine. So that chiropractor, I can imagine how bad that must have hurt. But she went, like you said, she went to several doctors. They all told her their opinion, and she just knew something wasn't right, that wasn't good enough. So I was at the cell barn on a Monday, and she called me and said, I got a feeling that we need to do something different. So her nurse friend, which went with us, and we went to Children's in Dallas, and we sat in the ER for no telling how long. It was forever. And finally got to see a doctor, and we knew something was wrong when the doctor said, we're going to keep you overnight and do some more tests. And that turned into about a week, and that's when we found out he had stage 4 neuroblastoma, which was a mouthful, but very rare cancer. And so that's where it all...
How old was he?
3.
So, man, that had to just take your breath away.
Yeah, I was really in shock, just really not knowing how to process it. And I remember the first thing I did is, of course, we prayed, and I told God, I said, I don't know how we're going to handle this, but you do. And I pray for the peace that only you can give. And he sure did. He gave it.
Man, you say peace, that's the part that, I mean, it kind of gets me emotional just talking about it right now, just thinking what it would be like for me with one of my kids, and that's the first place everybody's mind goes when they hear about this is, man, I've got little ones too. I can't imagine going through that. And then especially as a man and as the husband and the father, I think we feel a real responsibility to take care of our families, to provide for their safety and their comfort. And, that's a big part of our identity. And when you find something like that out, that really you don't have any control over the situation now. There's nothing you can really do. Did you feel really helpless?
Yeah, Kristen was obviously pretty upset and didn't know what we were going to do, and just kind of told her what I had on my heart was exactly what you said. This isn't something we can control. We can't fix it. All we can do is be here for them. We have to lean on God and his help, and he's got a plan. If he heals Brody, he's going to get the glory, and if he doesn't, he's going to get the glory. But we're gonna give this to him, and it's in his hands, and that's how we're going to handle this. And like I said on the piece, I know for a fact that he, because I can't even look at pictures of him when he was in the hospital without crying, without tearing up. And he just gave us, even Kristen too, she's pretty shy and calm and doesn't have a whole lot to say, but that mama bear come out at the hospital, I mean, I've seen her just turn into a nurse overnight. I mean, she researched that stuff, listened to everything the doctor said. When I'm in there, it's going in one ear and out the other. I mean, all them terms and stuff.
Yeah.
She wasn't afraid to tell the doctors no, or we're not doing that, we're going to do this. And, she was on top of it from the start.
Right.
And she was strong the whole way through it. And the only thing we can attest it to, because even now she, same way. I mean, we can't even watch a movie about a kid having cancer without just crying for hours. So she, prayer works by far. And that's the only, people ask us all the time how we did that and went through it. And that's the only answer I got.
Yeah. It certainly wasn't you, was it?
No. No.
You didn't know what you were doing?
No, not a clue.
Neither one of you, really. I mean, I remember coming to see y'all in the hospital not long after that. And, y'all were doing the best you could. And you were like any other parent in that situation, just kind of deer in the headlights, And y'all are, like you said, shy, kind of soft-spoken country people, You're from the country. You're used to going in the highways and byways to talk about cattle with people. You're not used to being in the big city, right in the middle of the concrete jungle. And that was your home for a while. I mean,
yeah, from the first trip up there, we went from being in bubble wrap to driving 55, just hoping we're going to get there, to being the ones driving 90, telling everybody to get out of the way.
I bet you got used to honking that horn, didn't you? Well, man, what a journey. And then the other thing that stands out about that time is just how much this community began to rally around y'all. I mean, people came out of the woodwork once they found out, and it was Brody Strong. That became the little mantra that everybody put, hashtag Brody Strong, and you'd see it on T-shirts and hats. And I mean, everybody just came out and supported y'all. How did that feel? Because you're another thing about especially men. We're kind of proud sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't want to get, first of all, and I know you're this way. You don't want everybody in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, you don't always want to receive help from people because, like, I can handle it. I can do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't really have a choice in this matter.
Yeah.
Your business was out there, like it or not, and people were wanting to do something to help. How did that hit you?
Yeah, just exactly like you said, when our sale barn, some people that worked there put on the first benefit, and they called and asked us about it, and that was my first response was no. We don't need any charity. We don't want any charity. We just want our boy better. And a good friend of mine called me, and he said, have I ever lied to you? And I said, no, I don't think so. He said, well, people want to help, and the only way they know how to help is by donating their money. If they didn't want to donate their money and didn't love you, they wouldn't be doing it. They want to do this to help you. And by you saying no is more hurtful to them than saying yes and just allowing them to do this. And he said, I promise you they're doing it because they love you, not because they think that you need charity. So we went ahead and went through it, and there was there was a rodeo that was put on, and Russ did a gun auction, and I think they had a baseball tournament too, and it was so much, it was just overwhelming.
I'm sure it was humbling.
Very humbling.
But and probably uncomfortable at times.
Yep.
But you made it through.
Yeah.
And it really helped, I'm sure.
Oh, we couldn't have made it through without it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think it helped them too. All those people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helped them to, people go through so much of their lives making widgets, at the factory or going into the office to, deal with this problem or that problem. And most people don't really much like what they do.
Yeah.
It's not the ultimate source of their personality or meaning in life. And so they want something to latch onto that is bigger than them and that makes a difference, especially in the life of a kid. That would give a kid an opportunity to go on and live a full life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it helped all those people too, because it helped them break out of the mundane, maybe more meaningless aspects of life, and helped them latch on to something that was really truly life or death and important. And I'm sure you got that kind of feedback from some people too, huh?
Yep. Yeah, we had a lot of people that just, they said they didn't know what else to do but this, and just hoped that it would help.
Yeah.
And it meant the world to us. And like I said, it was the way everybody come together was so awesome that it was overwhelming at the same time, and just kind of in shock on that too.
Right.
What do you do?
Right.
You hate to just feel so helpless, but at the same time, when they're pouring their hearts out, it was amazing to see.
And when you came into all this, you and Kristen, would you have considered yourself real close to God?
Both Kristen and me were saved about the same age, about 9 years old, and we both grew up in Christian homes. I went to Mildred Baptist Church for pretty much my whole school life, and about the time that we got out, we got married first year out of high school, and started our own lives, and kind of in that stage where you really didn't know where you fit in at which church. And about that time, my parents switched churches and didn't really feel comfortable at the church that they were at, and just kind of got into the habit of not going. And really just felt like life was kind of a crazy mess that just seemed empty, that nothing was going the right direction. And sitting in a deer stand one day, just felt so empty, and I just cried out to God for help. And that next weekend we had a plan. We were going to come to Grace first, and then we had I think Northside and First Baptist after that. We didn't make it to number 2 and 3. We liked where we were on the first stop.
Oh, good.
So and I think that had to be part of God's plan, because Brody, he also has really bad asthma, and I think Kristen got that nursing ability and stay on top of medicines and everything from that, which prepared her for what was fixing to come. And then especially getting into a great church that would put us back on our feet spiritually, prepared us. There's no way that if that would have happened before, that I don't think we could have handled it.
Yeah.
So
you were just kind of getting back into the mix spiritually, and then you just get rocked with this situation. How did that affect your walk with Jesus?
Really and truly, nobody wants their kid to have cancer. Nobody wants their kid to be sick. And don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say, but I wouldn't have it any other way. We grew so much in that experience, not just me and Kristen, but our 2 girls, our whole family, just all the things that changed, and how closer we got to God and the things that he showed us. And it's a lot easier to be quiet and pay attention to the small things that are around us each and every day when you're stuck in a hospital watching your kid fight for his life. So
I'm sorry, I can't go on with that. That's an awesome answer, man.
We wouldn't change a thing.
I mean, I don't know how to respond to that, because it's so different. I mean,
the thing that the biggest thing I took out of the whole thing is I was struggling really bad with the fact that our girls were stuck at home with us being months at a time in the hospital, and then especially with Brody being 3 years old, going through 6 rounds of chemo, 12 rounds of radiation, surgery, stem cell transplant twice, immunotherapy, multiple needle pokes, and medicine job down his throat. And I just remember coming home just saying, God, how in the world is he ever gonna want to trust you and follow you after all the stuff he's been through? And about that time, probably gonna cry here, you got one of those little microphone deals that you can sing into. I don't know what you call them. Cordless one.
Oh, karaoke mic kind of deal. Yeah.
And it's right when I was thinking that, here's this little bald-headed kid with no hair walking down the hall singing "Jesus Loves Me." And that was like, who do you think you're talking to? I'm God. You don't control Brody's life. It's not your job you can't save him. I'm the one that does that. And that was the pivotal moment in the whole thing. It's just seeing that sweet little boy, bald-headed, singing "Jesus Loves Me" walking down the hall.
Usually, Ben, people come in here and they start telling their story and they get choked up, but you got me all choked up now. And I'm glad, because, I mean, the kind of faith that you demonstrated through that was really an example to a lot of people. Because you could have gone the other way, and so many people do that. They go through hard times, they go through difficulties, especially with a child. You just can't think of anything more more gut wrenching to go through, and you have people who blame God and get angry with God and think somehow that God has put this horrible situation upon their child. And it doesn't seem like that's the way that you process this at all.
No.
How would you describe the way you process this that's different from that?
Consider it all pure joy when you face trials. That's how we tried to handle it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me that you think that God really put something bad on you.
No, every one of us is going to face something in life. It's different for everyone, I feel. This was what happened to us. I don't think it came from God at all. It's just from sin coming into this world, something that happened. And the only way that we knew that we could get through it was by following Him and trusting Him the whole way. That was the only way, because we walked down them hospital halls all the time, and you could tell just by looking at people's face whether they believed in God or not. And we talked about it all the time. I don't know how in the world you could handle a child with cancer not knowing God. How in the world could you handle that without having something to hope in?
Yeah.
Because we knew if Brody wasn't healed here, he was going to be healed in heaven. And, I mean, that's the way we looked at it. Either way, he was going to be healed. So it was our job. God entrusted us to be His caretaker, and that's the only way we knew how to handle it.
You said you wouldn't, I forget how you said it, but something to the effect of you wouldn't change anything, which I can kind of relate to in some ways with our situation with our son Pierce. There were years there where I really struggled with, why do we have to have a kid with autism? Why do we have to have a kid who's so different and who has gone through such tremendous difficulties and who's been so hard to parent in some of these ways? It's been tough to go through that, but there came a time whenever I was like, man, I don't think I would change anything, because I look at what it's done in my other kids' lives. They're they're not the kind of kids who are making fun of kids on the playground, because they're different. They're the kind of kids who have empathy for those kids and compassion. And I look at what it's done for me and Kim. It really brought us together where we had to be a team instead of being, a couple of ships passing in the night. We really had to talk through treatment plans and options and things like that. So, totally different circumstances, but I feel like I can relate to that sentiment of kind of coming to the place where because we're so wired to fix things.
Right.
We get a problem comes up, we want to fix it. Some problems can't be fixed. They have to be managed with grace and dignity, and that's the way I felt. Kind of come around on Pierce and our situation as parents is, we're not going to fix this, but we can trust God through it, and we can look at all the good and beneficial things that have come out of it for our lives. And I think relinquishing yourself to that kind of thinking has been very freeing for me. Seems like it has been for you too.
Yeah.
So you're on the other side of this now. Brody's had several clear scans.
Yep.
He's the treatment took effect. Everything. Gut wrenching several years for y'all to go through because of all the things that you mentioned before and having to watch your son suffer and struggle, and really be he was so sick along the way there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were a couple times where he was just so sick you didn't know how this was going to turn out. But it turned out about as good as it could.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's still that part of you who's got to be that kind of is like, man, is the other shoe going to drop here soon? Are we going to get bad news? Or do you live in fear now as a result of going through all that?
Kristen was really kind of off before Easter, kind of upset, just really wasn't herself. And I asked her, I said, what's the matter with you? What's wrong? And of course, like most women, nothing. But finally she broke down and told me, said, Easter's coming up. Well, me being a dumb guy, I don't know what she's talking about. And then she finally told me, well, that's when we found out about Brody. I just get nervous around Easter time because that's when we found out. And you know, I don't even that doesn't even cross my mind about it coming back. I mean, I know it's a possibility. This is a very cancer that's been known to come back, and when it comes back, it's really, really almost impossible to get rid of. It's pretty much a death sentence. So she's crying out, pouring out her heart to me about how if it comes back, he will not make it. And you know, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I just told her, I said, God doesn't look at statistics. What the doctors say is not him. He's the ultimate healer, and he controls Brody's life. And there's nothing that me and you can do to change that. All we can do is trust in God, and when that bridge comes, we'll cross it, and he's going to be right there with us. So there's no sense in living in fear. So I guess to answer your question, I mean, it's back there, but I don't live in fear about it. Yeah. And I look at that little boy just every day, and how happy a kid he is, and just he's just a little bundle of joy. He's just so happy all the time, and that was one thing that made it so much easier in the hospital. You know, a year and 10 months of treatment on and off. Not one time did he ever complain. Not one time. Which made me look at all my life and the little things that I complain about that don't go my way. And here's a kid fixing to get poked. He didn't complain about it, but he was fixing to knock the nurse out. So he was. They called him the Little Hulk because it took 4 of them to hold him down every time they did something. So, but
really
he showed us. He showed us so much, just himself. We learned more from him than he'll probably ever learn from us.
Yeah,
just kids
pretty
can do that.
Amazing kid, yeah, pretty amazing kid, and to think, you know, you probably never would have seen that, you know, in any other circumstance. And so, you know, it just goes to show you. Sometimes we define our lives by our comfort. We define our lives by how things are going. You know, they're either going good or they're going bad. But when you have an eternal perspective, when you look at it outside of the situation and outside of the moment, sometimes you can really see that those times brought out the best in you, and they brought out the best in Brody, and you know, they brought out things that you wouldn't have seen any other way. And it's kind of like when I was telling you about Pierce earlier, but we talk about Pierce being a severe blessing. You know, it was going through some of those moments were severe. They were hard, but every bit of them was a blessing too, you know. And those severe blessings are sometimes the best because they're not surface level. They're not getting a few more dollars in your pocket, or, you know, stumbling into some good circumstance. They're real and they're raw, and you never forget them, you know.
Yep, there's lot of things the past few years that just brought a lot of stuff into perspective. You know, being dealing with all that with Brody and being so far away from family,
Mm-hmm.
and then COVID hit, and then bringing everybody back together,
Mm-hmm.
and just everything all tying in together. You know, just showing you how important it is, how family is, how
Mm-hmm.
important it is, and sticking together, and just the way God uses stuff that we don't consider to be good for blessings is just amazing to me.
It really is. Well, man, I just appreciate you so much. You're one of those guys, you don't know it because you don't. This is probably the most that many people have ever heard you talk. You know, you're not a guy who just gets around people and just lights up the room and talks their ear off, but you know, in your own quiet, steady way, I'm supposed to be your pastor and minister to you, but you've ministered to me and a lot of other people. So I'm proud to know you. Thankful
Thank you.
for your example of how you walked through this. Really excited, and just stirs me up to think about the kind of faith that God has built in you. And man, we love you, love your family. Glad you're here.
I love y'all too. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for making the time to talk about something that's really real and tough and raw. But appreciate it. It's going to go a long way to for a lot of other people to hear this.
Glad to do it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.